On a Wednesday, it's Claire Pearsall, former Conservative government advisor. Morning to you.
Morning.
Well, I mean, it's quite interesting for Tories to be sort of watching this sort of tennis matches going between Labour and Reform. You guys not getting much of a look in. Don't think Kemi Badenoch, your Tory leader, got a mention at all. But these were quite extraordinary scenes. Before we discuss this, and I've got quite a few things to say on this, as I'm sure you will. Shall we play a few clips just to get you up to date on what has said? So let's have a little clip of Keir Starmer. You know me, I'm very much the rule that speeches should only be clips. Here's what Keir Starmer had to say about Nigel Farage in his big barnstorming speech to conference yesterday.
We can all see these snake oil merchants on the right, on the left, but be in no doubt, conference, none of them have any interest in national renewal, because decline is good for their business. When was the last time that you heard Nigel Farage say anything positive about Britain's future? He can't. He doesn't like Britain, doesn't believe in Britain, wants you to doubt it just as much as he does.
Well, it won't surprise you that Nigel Farage then issued a video giving his view on Keir Starmer.
Sorry to say, I now believe that he is unfit to be the Prime Minister of our country. The Prime Minister has decided to descend into the gutter and all of his cabinet with him. Labour says these policies are racist and immoral, and by implication, Reform supporters, Reform voters, Reform sympathisers are racist too. This language will incite and encourage the radical left. It directly threatens the safety of our elected officials and our campaigners. And frankly, in the wake of the Charlie Kirk murder, I think this is an absolute disgrace.
What was even more of a disgrace was the Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy, making an accusation and then apologising, sort of, for that accusation some hours later.
I will leave it for the public to come to their own judgments about someone who once flirted with Hitler Youth when he was younger. That is for the public. He has denied it, and so I accept that he has denied it, and I would like to clarify that position because in the end the Prime Minister was keen for us to focus on the policies, not the individual.
Did we talk about policies at any point, though, Keir Starmer and David Lammy? Keir Starmer has been, praised to the rafters by Labour supporters as a man who took the fight to reform, re-establish his leadership, showed his vision of Britain. But all he talked about was Reform UK and Nigel Farage. I didn't hear any vision for Britain. It may as well have been the Reform Conference. Instead of defining what he stands for, what he believes in, his vision, announcing his policies to change our country, Keir Starmer has simply defined himself by what he's not. He's not Nigel Farage. But calling Nigel Farage's policies racist and immoral and divisive and toxic simply won't wash. And neither will the claim that, I don't believe Nigel Farage is racist. No, I don't believe Reform voters are racist. Brackets, I want them to come back and vote Labour next time round. Because if, by definition, someone who supports a racist policy must have racist views, surely not. It just isn't believable, Prime Minister. And people have had enough of their completely reasonable concerns about real problems they see with their own eyes being dismissed by the left as racist and toxic. The reality is the only people stirring up hatred and division in this country are Keir Starmer and his Deputy PM, David Lammy. Oh, yes, and Wes Streeting as well. David Lammy falsely accusing Farage of flirting with the Hitler Youth. I mean, for goodness sake, grow up, guys. Claiming a policy of deporting migrants who can't prove they are contributing to this country isn't remotely racist. What's it even got to do with the colour of anyone's skin? No one mentioned race, Keir Starmer, until you did. And do they even remember that just a few weeks ago, Charlie Kirk was murdered, a man who had never expressed a violent view in his life, but was murdered in cold blood by a man who thought that disagreeing with his political opponent meant it was justifiable for him to take his life. Stirring up irrational hatred against a political opponent is inviting violence against them. Farage has already faced death threats and genuine physical attacks. Let's hope it's a milkshake next time as well, shall we, while he's out campaigning on our streets. If Nigel Farage had delivered the same speech about Keir Starmer in that way on stage, Keir Starmer himself would be outraged. Yeah, I'm sure Keir Starmer's speech went down an absolute storm with the people in the conference hall after a lot of chatter of his failing leadership and a threat from Andy Burnham. But the only thing anyone is going to remember from this entire Labour conference is his attacks on the man leading in the polls. It is Starmer who is stirring up division. He stirred up division after the Brexit vote in 2016, fighting tooth and nail to stop the biggest democratic vote in our nation's history from being enacted. It was Starmer, not Nigel Farage, who stoked division by pushing the human rights agenda, which means that foreign rapists and paedophiles and drug dealers can win the right to live here indefinitely. It's Starmer who stokes up division by deriding ordinary British people as far right, as racist, for expressing legitimate concerns about mass legal and illegal immigration. And it's Starmer's party that doesn't like our country and would rather wave the EU flag than our own red, white and blue union flag. It is them who don't trust the British people to decide who runs our country, thinking that Brussels bureaucrats and foreign courts can do it better. Prime Minister, if you are rattled this badly by a party with, as you keep pointing out, just 5 MPs, only 15 months after you won a landslide election with a working majority of 161 MPs, you've got bigger problems than Nigel Farage. And your biggest problem is you. That's my thought. Love to hear your thoughts. Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. Claire Pearsall, as I say, former Conservative government advisor, your lot didn't get a look in. You're irrelevant now. What did you make of this, extraordinary war of words?
It is quite something. So the grand takeaway from the Labour Party conference across 3 days is Nigel Farage.
Yep.
He is the threat to the country, apparently. And that's it. No policies, no decisions, and I listened to
There were
the
some
Prime
policies, but they've kind of what were they? We've forgotten them all.
I was going to say,
ID
can you
cards,
remember
brilliant.
them? But the ID cards, interestingly, wasn't even mentioned in Keir Starmer's speech. Yeah. So he made a really big thing about it, then failed to mention it through his keynote speech.
In a 55-minute speech?
Yeah, I listened to this.
Can we have a little round of applause for Claire managing to get through the whole speech?
It was, thank you. I do these things. It was a speech that was also seemingly written by about 2 or 3 different people.
I thought ChatGPT.
Yes.
I've got to be honest with you.
The first half was really, really, really boring, and even by Keir Starmer's standards, really dull. And then he sort of livened up a bit. But even so, what a set of words to use against another political party.
But why in your barnstorming speech, apparently, why in your big keynote speech as Prime Minister with, less than 4 years to go on your term in office, with a big mandate, you got 161 majority vote, you could do anything you want. Yeah. And I will criticise policy, but I will defend the right of this government as a democratic elected government under our system of election to do the policies that they said they were going to do. Now, if they go against the manifesto commitment, we should rail against that, as I would if it was Reform or the Tories or anyone else in power. Yeah. But you shouldn't be talking about anyone else. You should be talking about what you have done and what you will do.
Yes.
And we had so little of that. And when they do talk about their achievements, and we had a representative of Labour List magazine on yesterday, and she was saying about, GB energy, but no one even knows what it does.
It's really difficult for them to list any of their successes. And there was another piece in the speech about not surrendering the flag. Keir Starmer will not surrender it. Who's asked him to? That's the thing. Is that he and, the Emily Thornberrys and all that. No, but they do think that the flag, they're ashamed of their country. They're ashamed of our history. Yeah. They're ashamed of our culture. They think we should take the knee, literally, to any other culture that comes here because ours is inferior and racist and wrong. They think our flag represents a colonial, evil, slave-owning part. They really do think that. And yet they'll accuse people like me or you of being or Nigel Farage of being flag wavers. But they'll stand up, they'll wave and stand in front of a blue flag with yellow stars on that has nothing to do with this country quite happily. Yeah, or a rainbow flag. They bloody love a rainbow flag. Oh, they do. They like those. But also by calling policies of reform racist, that's just saying that everybody that supports them or anybody that has those concerns is also racist.
They insist that's not the case. Interview after interview, these little sessions that after the speech which the Prime Minister had with the BBC and with Sky and ITV and everything, he keeps saying that. But it's not true
because if we are not just colleagues on air. I think we're friends as well. If I believe that you, or if you believe that I supported a policy that the other one believed to be racist, I don't think we would be friends. I'm not sure I'd want you on my show, and you want to come on my show.
Well, no, you wouldn't, and that's the whole point. But also,
because I think you were a racist.
But yes, I mean, that's only sort of basic common sense, isn't it? But I think by sort of tarring everybody with that brush just shows that you haven't got an argument to make yourself.
Yeah, but also this idea of migrant policy, so deporting people who don't speak proper English, are not making a proper contribution on benefits, or have committed criminal acts, who've been given indefinite leave to remain in the last 10 years or so, and basically saying, actually, you're going to have to reapply, not sure you fulfil the criteria anymore, you're not a net benefit to this country, we'd like you to leave. Now, whether they ever get round to deporting those people is another thing entirely. But the idea that policy is racist, who mentioned race? If you were a white Canadian or Australian or Frenchman, I know it probably wouldn't count under the EU rules. They can stay forever and ever. But I couldn't care less what the colour of your skin was. If you've come here to this country basically under false pretences by, getting a job here, but then actually not working after you've got, you've been given the leave to remain or claiming benefits, then I'm sorry. No, the rules have changed. You don't get to stay. Rules change. Again, this is the idea. We can't change the rules. I'm sorry, but they were happy to change the rules on things like VAT for school fees. Now, I don't think that people who can send their kid to private school, which I did, I don't think we're the people who people should get their little violins out for. I'm really not. But so halfway through a school year, they changed those rules, even though people would have enrolled their child in that school year on the basis of the fee. They're happy to change the rules, whether it's winter fuel allowance, or they change the rules all the time. And if governments can't change the rules and can't change laws, and yes, sometimes that is backdated, it's from going forward, that no longer applies, then what's the point of us ever having elections? Ever?
But what's the point of policies? Because things change. The landscape changes, the country changes, needs of the country change.
Like Refugee Convention, good thing, absolutely, in the 50s. Not so much anymore.
No, but we can make bespoke schemes for Ukrainians and for Hong Kongers. So those were changes in the laws because they didn't exist beforehand. So they can change the law when it suits them. Yeah. And that's what I don't like.
It's the hypocrisy, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But again, not just Starmer, what he said, calling Farage a snake oil statement, saying he snake oil merchant, saying he doesn't like Britain and he doesn't believe in Britain. David Lammy talking about Nigel Farage flirting with Hitler Youth. I mean, I was messaging Nigel Farage yesterday saying, you need to start suing these people. I mean, get the libel lawyers, but he would win. I'm sorry. You simply can't make stuff up like that. There was an instant in his youth when he was singing songs. I mean, sorry, people have done stupid things when they were 14. Diane Abbott on Newsnight last night. Why people are still inviting Diane Abbott on any programme? I know no one watches Newsnight anyway. Saying, I'm all for people giving him a good kicking. Again, I don't have a problem with people using phrases like that because that's simply a phrase. That's a British, idiomatic speech. I've got no issue with that. Do you think if Nigel Farage had said that about Diane Abbott, that the BBC and the left wouldn't be up in arms about that awful racist, misogynistic? No, but she can say it. She gets a free pass. Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, long regarded as one of the sane people in the cabinet, but quite happily standing there and getting his, literally trying to get his head into the picture when that Palestinian flag was raised, because, oh, goodness me, a lot of Muslim voters in his constituency and a very small majority. Wes Streeting, we all thought better of you, but we were wrong. But yes, he's accusing Nigel Farage of being a con artist. Now, again, when you say to people, you were conned into voting for Brexit, you've been conned by Nigel Farage, and those policies are racist, you're saying to people, either you are racist or you're saying you're stupid. Yes. Telling voters that they are racist and stupid largely doesn't work out well for the people who are saying that, because our British voters are not. Yes, there are some racists, and yes, there are some stupid people. We've all met them. Some of us work alongside some of them at times. I mean, we've got members of our family who fit into that category. But telling the majority of the British public that's who they are, and then thinking, I hope they vote for us next time. It's not going to work.
Well, of course it's not. You're not going to vote for the people that said, oh, you were misguided and
You're
stupid
an idiot.
and you were wrong. So, you know, come to us and we'll tell you what's best.
Fascist idiots, come back and vote for us.
Honestly,
I mean,
we're
is
the
that
nice
your policy,
people.
Keir?
But when you have to go out onto the media to explain, apologise, clarify, it just means you got it wrong in the first place.
Exactly.
Don't do it.
Absolutely. He has also said there was a bit of policy. I think it's really interesting. You say the ID cards policy, the big, this is how we're going to stop. I mean, no one can yet work out how it will solve migrants getting on boats, you know, another 400, you know, yesterday and God knows how many more this morning. But apparently Keir Starmer does want to change how international law, not the actual law, not the European Convention on Human Rights, not leaving it, not reforming it, but how it's interpreted to say, he says, to stop unsuccessful asylum seekers blocking their deportation. Now, I'm of the view that the interpretation is the problem. There's nothing wrong with, you know, the article stating, you know, your right to privacy and things like that. It's the fact that they've got, you know, a family life. It's the fact they've got 2 paragraphs and our judges are ignoring the first paragraph. But he's not going to be able to stop judges in their interpretation. By definition, it's an interpretation.
And he should know that, considering that he always tells us he's a lawyer and he's come from a legal background. He should understand that. So I'm not sure what he's going to do. Is he going to send a little note out to all the judges saying, please, 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 can you do this?
Can you send some of these people home?
But, I mean, that doesn't say much for the judiciary then, does it?
I mean, it really doesn't. I mean, we need a full clear out of civil service and judiciary. There's no way we're going to deal with anything without that. Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, again, her speech was an absolute, you know, nothing and nothing. She, though, we understand, is reconsidering a plan to scrap 2-child benefit cap. This is something the left desperately want us to give about £3,500 a year for the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th kid of people who don't earn enough money to support the children they've got. Because apparently it's really good for this country. Oh, and foolishly, Nigel Farage has talked about this as well, although I think they've said only for working families. Sorry, you know, what? So dad works 2 days a week and you've got 5 kids. Yeah. We know what this is again. This is a policy which largely benefits immigrant families. Because I'm afraid to tell you, British people are not having, of any hue, are not having more than a couple of kids because they can't afford them. But the 2-child benefit cap is hugely popular. Guess what? Particularly among people on low incomes, because they live, you know, I don't live next door to people who are claiming, you know, benefits and extraordinary. They can't afford to live in my street. But I tell you who do live next to those people who get up every morning at 6 a.m. to go to work all day, often in a job that's, you know, hard, you know, let's face it, harder than sitting in a radio studio. No, but come on, proper work, you know, physical work. And they're doing a job all day. They're coming home and the bloke and his family next door have done bugger all day, and they're getting pretty much the same income. So those people really do care about those sort of policies. The idea that my taxes should go towards funding someone having more kids than most people can afford is insane.
But also the cost of reversing this policy is £3.5 billion a year. I thought that we had no money. I thought that there was this enormous black hole that we were supposed to fill with something. So where's that coming from? So we couldn't afford to just leave the pensioners alone with their winter fuel allowances. We had to take that. We've hit the farmers, but it's all right. Have more kids and we'll just pay for them for you. I don't want my tax money to go to that.
But also this idea, I know we need more kids, but I'm not entirely sure that
But we shouldn't pay for them.
Yeah, but also I'm not entirely sure that the people who can't or who don't work, I mean, sorry, they need this money because they're not both working, they're not looking at. If we're talking about people who if you can't pay for the kids, you shouldn't have them. It's simple as that. These are not the people who are turning out the future entrepreneurs and hard workers and taxpayers of the future who are going to fund all our pensions when we're old. I'm sorry, they're not. There are some really clear indicators of whether or not a child is going to go on to be a productive member of society. And mum and dad not being able to pay the bills because they're just having kids they can't afford and expecting other people to pay them are not the people who are producing those kids. Just telling you that. Just finally, talking about producing kids, some new scientific breakthrough that we didn't need, able to produce, they believe, babies that could be born without a biological mother, basically fertilising. I mean, I don't even want to get into the details of this, but why? Why do we want to bring in babies into the world without a biological mother? I mean, the most important thing that a baby needs, the only thing a baby can see in the first 6 weeks of its life is between the nipple of the mother and the mother's face. That's it. That's all they can only see the 6. That's all they need to see, because the only person that matters, and yes, dads, of course dads matter. Most good dads would also accept that mum matters more in those early years, right? Am I right? Am I the only person who's saying this out loud?
No.
But why do we want to remove the number one most important thing from a child, which is their biological mother?
If women were scared about being erased from society beforehand, they need to be extremely concerned with this. As you say, why? Why bother? What's the point of this? Just because you can do something...
Could you try curing cancer rather than doing this, please?
I would much rather have that, but just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. What's the point of it?
Yeah.
What are you trying to prove? Should we just leave this one well alone? I don't understand. Science gone completely bonkers.
Seriously dystopian stuff, it really is. As indeed is everything that Keir Starmer said in his speech yesterday, linking that back.